This week on the Corp, we have a very special guest, Dylan Lauren. This is actually another one of those episodes, ARod, that we had my boss, CEO of Barstool Sports, Erika Nardini, tag in. I was out doing something else. I don't know what, but you interviewed Dylan Lauren with Erika, and I'm mad that I missed it because she's a candy
awesome.
mogul. Is
Yes,
that right?
Yes.
She's a candy mogul.
Daughter of a legend, of course, Ralph Lauren. Dylan's Candy, one of the most successful candy stores in the world, and my daughter's favorite.
Did they give you candy?
They did.
You gotta be kidding me.
A lot of it.
I missed this.
You did.
I missed this. So what was, give me some candy facts. I want, like, what's, her story is obviously an interesting one. Who becomes a candy mogul? That's my dream job.
Exactly. She wanted to get away from the family business. She wanted to have her own identity and be her own businesswoman, and she's a CEO. She's been a friend for a long time. Dylan went to Duke and is a avid workout fanatic, and she's brought candy to be cool for adults too. So when you go to her store, it's an experience. You can have ice cream, you can have drinks, and it's just beautiful, full of color.
Okay, so your playing days, obviously you had to stay in great shape. You were, the baseball season's a grind. You can't cheat. But what was the Alex Rodriguez cheat meal, cheat dessert that you would hit up when you were playing?
I would say if you talked about candy bar, I would say something like a Snickers or Reese's Pieces back in high school. Mm-hmm. And then today, like a midnight snack would be like chocolate chip ice cream.
Okay, and now it's Dylan's Candies.
There it is.
Dylan's Candies. So great interview coming up here with Erika Nardini, CEO of Barstool Sports, and ARod interviewing Dylan Lauren. Our friends from LinkedIn, we're hiring. Barstool, you're hiring.
Yep.
The Corp is hiring. So you need to get on LinkedIn because we won't find you unless you're on LinkedIn. And ARod, we've talked about this, but as people who, I don't own a business, I have a stake in Barstool, so I do, I guess, would be a part owner. But when you're looking for new employees, you have to get the biggest pool of candidates possible. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, you're doing yourself a disservice. I'm sure you've had hiring nightmares.
Yeah.
Don't say me, but you have.
Company included.
Yes, you have had hiring nightmares where you hire the wrong person because maybe you didn't look in the right pool or go through enough candidates. And that's why LinkedIn is so great, because they have 600 million members that visit LinkedIn to connect, learn, and grow as professionals. If you have a business and you're not using LinkedIn, you're doing yourself a disservice.
At the Corp, we say hire slow, fire fast. We never make a hire without looking at LinkedIn.
Yes. So there you go. So if you want a job at the Corp, if you want to, if you have a business and you want to hire someone who is well qualified, and like you said, that's a great saying, hire slow, fire fast. Hire slow means you got to post your job on LinkedIn and you got to look through all those candidates. And the best way to do it, like I said, LinkedIn. With LinkedIn Jobs, you can pay what you want, and the first $50 on them. So if you have a business, just visit linkedin.com/thecorp. Again, that's linkedin.com/thecorp to get $50 off your first job post. Terms and conditions apply, but that is a great deal, because if you're looking for a candidate, we're going to do it right now with a new Barstool job. You got to be on LinkedIn. LinkedIn.com/thecorp, and you get $50 off, $50 on LinkedIn right when you post your first job. So check them out. If you want a job, get on LinkedIn. If you want to find someone who wants a job, get on LinkedIn. LinkedIn has it all. 600 million members.
And Dan, for our young listeners, update your resumes.
Yes.
It's very important.
And network.
Yes.
That's the best part about LinkedIn. If you go on there, the tools that they have now where you can connect with people who might be outside of your little pool of friends and coworkers, that's the best way. I'm sure you've seen it. You've hired people on recommendations. I definitely have, where I find people because someone told me about them or I've networked up a level. A perfect example is Brian Axelrod and Ron Berkowitz,
That's
our
right.
friend. I got to you through them.
That's right.
That's connecting.
Yeah.
So you got to do it. LinkedIn's the best way to do it. So check them out. Our great sponsor, linkedin.com/thecorp.
And now, Dylan Lauren.
You're listening to The Corp, presented by Barstool Sports.
So, Erika, before I pass it to you,
Yes.
I am so excited to say that you benched Dan Katz. You benched him.
We benched him.
Yeah, we benched him. That's true. So I am excited that you're my co-host today.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. We have Dylan Lauren here, who's a friend and someone who I've admired for a very long time, and comes from American royalty, really, with her father and mother, and now is creating her own amazing legacy with Dylan's Candy, who, by the way, the first thing my daughters do when they arrive in New York City is, Dad, we're going to Dylan's for candy. It's the best.
Completely.
So, yeah, I'll let you.
Great. I got off the plane last night, and the first place I went was Dylan's Candy, so it was amazing at JFK. So I think, Dylan, what our audience would love to hear is just your story. How did Dylan's Candy start? What gave you the idea, your inspiration, and really how you made it happen?
Well, I've always just loved candy, but for me, it wasn't just about eating the candy. It was looking at it and looking at the colors and the shapes and the textures, and even just making art out of candy. I would collect gumballs and make mosaics, and M&Ms. I'd make things, or candy wrappers. I'd decoupage into chairs and make furniture. So it just evolved from there, that I would go around the world finding candy that I loved, not just to eat, but looking at the packaging, looking at chocolate sculptures from Italy, or a beautiful lollipop from France, or some Chinese candy with some cool packaging, and being I guess fortunate to travel, whether in my own city of New York, and see interesting candies. I just kept collecting it, and to me it was just more art on shelves and things to try. And then I went to college. I was an art history major at Duke, and I started studying pop art, and again I kept gravitating towards pop artists like Warhol, who really admired graphics and pop design, like the Brillo packaging. And so I was like, okay, maybe one day I'll open an art gallery where I'll have all these pop artists who work with candy, and candy as their medium, and then I'll showcase these candies as art. And then it kept evolving into, I haven't really found all the candies I love to eat in any of these stores I went. What if I open this beautiful art gallery, but made it like the world's largest candy store, but then made it like Disneyland, like somewhere really fun. And then it sort of brought out my favorite movie, which is Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. So I was like, it should be something really interesting, not just these boring candy stores with slat wall. It should really look like the set of Willy Wonka. So after watching that movie, as a kid about 20 times, and then as an adult thinking about it, and then watching all these Disney movies and going back to Disneyland, I was like, okay, this is what it's going to be, the world's largest candy store. It's going to be, this bright and happy place, but also cool and hip for adults to see products they grew up with and see pop art. And then Dylan's Candy Bar just kept evolving until, I guess a few years after college, I just said, I'm going to do it. I'm going to open this place. And then in 2001, Dylan's Candy Bar opened.
It's amazing.
So Dylan, first of all, we're going to get into what an amazing connected CEO you are, and the amazing things you've done with Dylan's Candy. But I want to take you all the way back to when Dylan was 9, 10, 11, a young girl, youngest of 3, to your brother, David and Andrew.
Yeah.
Obviously, you're the daughter of the great Ralph Lauren and Ricky Lauren. Take us to when you were 10 years old. How was it having such an iconic family? What did you learn? And how was it as a kid for you?
So for me, I sometimes forget that my dad is known to the world. He's to me dad, and it's always interesting going to camp, and people are like, oh my God, what's your closet like? Oh wow, can I touch you? You're Ralph Lauren's daughter. And it was weird because in the schools in the city and just people I was surrounded by, I just thought of my dad as just, someone wears jeans, sweatpants, we eat hamburgers and hot dogs, very down to earth. And if anything, like family, would come first. So I didn't really care about, the fame as much as just, was he a good dad,
Your
which
family.
we're very, very close. So I think I really, he's very close to his parents, and my extended family were all close. So I always felt just very grounded. And my parents, they'd be invited invited to a lot of fashion events, and my dad's not the kind of guy to want to go to all these things. He's very much about, keeping his image private, but controlling it. So it was interesting watching, like all the other designers are going out and sort of schmoozing, and he was very cool, but I think he's, kept his vision and been really a trendsetter and never followed trends. So just sitting around the dinner table, as I've, grown up watching him and my uncle, who's his best friend, who works with him, talking about, stores they visited and, fabrics they found, a cool vintage jean jacket, what they're going to do with it. I started to sort of learn, it's sort of just second nature, the idea of my dad having this passion for what he did. I never felt like he was one of those dads who was just like a doctor or a lawyer. He's a real artist. And I think that inspired me to be, sort of an entrepreneur and an artist myself and do something that I was passionate about, because I always admired, how passionate he was and that he just loved his work.
I also think it's great that your family has made art and business come together in a way that you're really creating and almost a world. Like when I think about Dylan's Candy, you walk in and you're in an experience, you're in a world. The same if you go into a Ralph Lauren store, you're wearing, it's Americana, you're part of a bigger experience, and I think that takes real vision.
Well, that to me, I knew what I wanted to do is pioneer not only the world's largest candy store, but real retailtainment, and something that wasn't just, like these candy stores that were boring with metal shelves and no music.
Like transactional.
And I had studied just subconsciously my dad's stores. Polo Sport had the barbells as the door handles and a kayak over your head when they were selling RLX sportswear. And then, Rugby was selling rugby shirts with the sort of British, mahogany walls, or Double RL has the sort of Western theme. And, the creativity that went into creating real set designs, or even if you go into a home furnishing showroom, they can create a Japanese looking, Ralph Lauren black, white, and silver room with fake window settings, and all of a sudden the next room is Safari and it looks like you're on the set of Safari. So being immersed in those worlds that he and his creative team created, I was like, wow, I want to create something like that with candy. And again, Willy Wonka, Disney, all these sort of inspirational movies were things I watched to create retail stores that really provided an experience. Before these, museums and experiential places were around, we were the first sort of candy store to do it, like FAO Schwartz did it for toys, or Nike Town did it for sneakers, or my dad did it. So giant lollipop tree is the first thing you see when you walk in, but it's not a plastic cheap tree. It looks like pop art,
it's
like
art.
a Chihuly sculpture, or the candy and the steps, which will get you to go upstairs and downstairs, is really backlit to make it look beautiful, or the candy cane columns surrounding the shelves make you feel like you're surrounded by these oversized giant candy installations. So it makes it much more fun to
amazing.
shop.
How both of your businesses take your name. So how do you separate your life from your work and your art, which are all melded together? Your family shares something in that.
I think for me, I knew Dylan's Candy Bar was sort of like putting a name on a brand. Is very personal to me, and I had a lot of pressure. It better do well. My name's on the door. But also, it's like you see Sam's Pizza, or it's kind of thing with food. I think it makes it more friendly. And I thought it was just a unique name, so I was going to use it for that.
So I'm interested to know, coming out of high school, you can pretty much go to any college you want. You go to where Coach K, the great Coach K at Duke. Why Duke, and how was your experience at Duke?
Well, it's funny. I actually got into Princeton, and my essay for Princeton, which I still love today, was compare yourself to person, place, animal, or food. So I compared myself to an everlasting gobstopper from Willy Wonka. Who said I was well-rounded, colorful, many layers. So I think that got me into Princeton. But I actually went to Duke because Duke was at the height of the back-to-back, and my brother went there, and I was close to him, and I love sports, and I was just more excited about the environment that was sporty. And I saw guys throwing footballs on the lawn, and I was like, I went to Dalton, which is very intense high school. I didn't want to be writing term papers, and at the time, Princeton was a little more of like, I felt like eating clubs and a lot of work. I wanted more of an athletic environment, and I loved like a winning sports school. So that was it. Like, I think my parents were like, why wouldn't you go to Princeton? And I was kind of like, but Duke, it's like everyone that year wanted to go to Duke. So they're both great. So I guess, I don't know. And I think just, I grew up in New York City, so I kind of like the idea of going to the South, somewhere different.
So behind you can't see her, but you have Blair, one of our team members, and she's a Duke, and she's got a big smile on her face.
Yes, Duke.
I have a question for both of you, which is, both of you had huge expectations around you at a young age, and certainly going to a university like Duke creates its own set of expectations. Your family creates expectations. Your talent creates expectations. How did you manage that? Like, how did you harness those expectations into really delivering in sport, in business, creatively? Like, tell me about that.
First.
Okay, sure. Thanks, Erika. So, look, for me, being a part of big brands, like Ralph Lauren, like Dylan's Candy, like the Yankees, it's something that I took really seriously. And I was almost corny about it because when it comes to baseball, I'm a nerd. I say I got my 20,000 hours, and my daughters to this day, they're like, Dad, do we have to watch? It's bad enough we watch baseball 24/7, but we have to watch 4 games at the same time.
Oh my God.
And that's aggressive. So first of all, I'm an incredible lover and passionate about the game of baseball. When it came down to expectations, I always went back to the fundamentals. I wanted to be the best at what I did every day with, the most simple, mundane things you can think of, catching ground balls, routines. I wanted to be super prepared. I wanted to get there early. I really never thought about the pressure that came with either fans' expectations or my own expectations. I put all my energy in the process and not so much in the results.
Into the basics, the steps.
Interesting. Yeah, I think, for me, my parents never really pushed me, put pressure on me, but I was very much a self-motivated, wanted to be a leader in some sort. I guess in school I was president or captain of volleyball and tennis. So I was really always liked to be a leader. And I think watching my dad being the leader of his company, I think very much inspired me. But I think I was so, I'm a professional candy eater. I just love candy. I know it. I am my customer.
That's a great title.
And it's not that hard. Like I know the product very well. Like I've been, trying candies, traveling, looking for them, and having friends go with me. At Duke, I spent a lot of my evenings not necessarily going to like keg parties, but going to the local candy stores, supermarkets, finding packaging, doing art with candy. Like it was really my passion. So I think when you really love what you do, you excel in it. And I was a student of trying to understand how could I make this store so experiential. So I knew the word bar and candy bar. I wanted to have part of it be a bar. So I was going to clubs and restaurants and literally with a notepad being like, let me listen to music, let me look at the fixtures, let me understand what's making this place work, or the designs. Like I went to the MoMA or the art galleries to understand how do I make this more of a pop art cool candy store, not just a mom and pop store, because I wanted it to merge fashion, art, and pop culture with candy. And my mission's really for the adult. It's to inspire the kid in the adults and awaken that creative spirit, which was a challenge because people are like, oh, you're opening this candy store. There's a lot of candy stores. So I was kind of like, no, this is going to be really cool. So there was a lot of
super interesting.
I think the interesting thing about it, Dylan, is the juxtaposition of you being like exactly the epitome of health and wellness and fitness. You work out 5-6 times a day, you lift weights, you do cardio. But then in your day job, you're selling candy. Like, how do you balance the two?
Well, first of all, I love being an entrepreneur because I can control my schedule. And everyone's like, well, I'm too busy to work out. For me, that's like number one priority. Not just like to try to look okay, but it's really, I get stressed, and it's a great outlet, boxing, going on the stair mill, working with a trainer.
How long do you go on the stairs for?
So I wrote my book on that stair mill. I used my BlackBerry and I wrote
Wow.
it. So I can go on.
That's
So when
impressive.
I first started, that was get to heart race. It's an amazing workout.
Yes.
Probably an hour, but if you're really
Wow.
going fast, I'd say 45 minutes.
Wow.
I mean,
I'm like a 5-minute or bust.
really?
That machine is no joke.
That
It's
is the
no
hardest
joke.
machine in the
It's
gym.
fantastic. I really like that. So I love that machine. I like the VersaClimber. The Woodway is my new favorite of the. But I'm really an outdoor person. Like one of the beauties of like having candy stores in areas I want to travel is I can run in these
Yeah.
areas. So running in Chicago around the what is it, the Michigan Avenue and the
Lake Michigan, yeah.
Michigan is beautiful. Or I was just in LA and I was hiking.
I love your Chicago store, by the way.
Thank you.
Beautiful.
Thank you. But I love being outdoors. So it's very important to me. And I also think everything in balance. So it allows
Tell us
me
about
to
your
kind
diet. Talking about balance.
diet.
Yeah, I agree.
So
Candy.
I actually own a lot of nutrition books. I actually, when I graduated college, the first thing I wanted to do on the side was be a trainer. I actually took the test to be a trainer, and I wanted to be a spin class instructor. So I really am into health and wellness. I studied like the anatomy in these books, and I went to like these trainer association rallies just for fun. I also wanted to be a dancer for one of these pop singers. So
I know someone.
well, I love
It's the
that
right
kind
podcast
of
for you.
stuff. So count me in as my next job. But and then I really eat well because I understand nutrition. So I have a lot of vegetables is the majority of my plate. I really like vegetables, and then protein. But
What kind of proteins?
I don't eat meat. I probably fish, probably protein shake, maybe a protein bar. But I've taken those allergy tests that you recommended years
Yeah.
ago. I can't really have whey and soy, so it's always interesting to find or egg, which is kind of hard.
Do you cook
So
yourself?
I'm trying. I really like pureed vegetables and pureed soup, so I'm experimenting. I like grilled vegetables.
I know Paul doesn't cook.
He actually does. He's a grill man. He's
Really?
a griller. Yeah, but I
Okay.
gotta get him motivated. But there's something. I mean, as much as I like eating at home, I feel like it's like getting like I can either make a coffee or I can go out and get a coffee. I'd rather go out. It makes it feel like
Yeah,
an
I'm the same way.
activity. But I love my downfall food is sushi rice. Like just white rice is probably but besides but I have a very balanced diet. It's really the candy that's sort of the vice. I don't drink, I don't smoke, I don't really do, so that's
No
my
drinking,
thing.
zero.
No, I've never, I don't know. One of my brothers not really either, so
Just not into it.
yeah.
How do you deal with the haters on like the
Haters.
sugar and
Oh,
candy and like
Yes.
I really love that you are unapologetically in love with candy. You
Yeah.
have the best candy place on the planet.
Thank you.
And you own that literally and also figuratively. But how do you deal with
Right.
kids shouldn't be having sugar? Are you marketing to kids? Like, do you experience that a lot?
No, a few things. So I understand, like I do love nutrition and I understand that. I do believe everything in moderation and anything and balance. So my stores are, giant stores, not just about eating candy. It's about living a sweet life. A lot of our product is lifestyle products. We have, because I think candy's so beautiful, we have patterns made with candy canes and lollipops that are on robes, and we have bracelets and candy jewelry and spa products that smell like candy scents. There's tech covers. It's kind of hip and cool to have like a fun,
It's light.
yeah, it's fun. There's like products. We have dog products we make because we have an animal foundation. So we'll have leashes with a little like candy, thing. Or so it's really candy everything. We play over 100 candy songs with lyrics from I Want Candy. All different candy songs. You see candy commercials running around in the store, and there's the nostalgic department, the chocolate world. There's a cafe upstairs which has candy cocktails and ice cream. So it's really it's everything. everything. But I must say that the thing we have done recently is launched a line called Mindful Indulgences, Treat Yourself, which is actually at all the Whole Foods now, and it's for people who are worried about being diabetic, who have dietary restrictions. Some of the candy's vegan, some of it is gluten-free, kosher, lactose-free, egg-free, nut-free. So we're covering all our bases with our Mindful Indulgences line, because that's very important to me, to be able to have something for everyone. So, if people can't eat candy at all, be like, okay, here's a candy purse, that's fun, or here's an
accessory,
a candy throw, which you're getting, or ways, because I know you're not on the sugar. I've also done that. I've done all these different protein, the Fat Flush, the protein plan, I've read all those books, and I get it, they work, but I have my splurge days where I hit the Cold Stone Creameries and our ice cream, which I love, and a waffle from somewhere.
I love your ice creams too.
It's really good. Thank you.
And we'll be there. We're taking the whole family,
all right,
all 4 kids. That we don't have a choice. They love it.
Thank
I do
you.
have a question for both of you, because I have my 2 greatest possessions in life are my 2 daughters, Natasha and Ella. Natasha's 14, going on 34, and Ella's 11. And they're both crazy about Dylan's candy. But, one of the things I do when I drive them to school is we do a little bit of, I give them some math. I give them some kind of, we play these games where I'm talking to them a little bit about the stock market and what are your 5 stocks that you would pick. And ironically enough, they pick great stocks because it's what they know best. It's Facebook, it's Google, it's Amazon.
Interesting.
It's interesting, the lessons you can learn from the little ones. But the other thing is, I always tell them I want them to shoot for number 1. If you want to be the president of the United States, this is a country where you can actually get that done. I want you to be like both of you. I want you to be, go for CEO. Always go for number 1. So my question for both of you, Erika, I love the story that, Barstool interviewed about 75 men, and you were number 76. You were the only woman, and you became the CEO. I would like to know your experience where both of you go up against an industry full of men, and you guys are rock stars. You're some of the best CEOs in the entire country.
Well, thanks.
We'll come on here more often. Sorry, Dan. I would say, I don't know how you feel about it, Dylan, but what I would say, Alex, is I don't think about being a woman at work at all. I don't really think about my gender that much in general beyond, I love dresses or makeup or whatever things that are traditionally girly. And I think for your girls to just believe in themselves as people, that they can go do anything they want. I have a son and a daughter, and I treat them basically very equally. I don't think about their gender in a limitation or a permission for opportunity. And I really felt that going into Barstool Sports when I met the Chernin group before I joined. I worked for a different company, and they said, we put money into this company you've never heard of called Barstool Sports. And I was like, oh, I have heard of Barstool Sports. I'm a sports nut. I pulled out the app. I was like, here's everything they're doing right. Here's everything they're doing wrong. Here's everything I would do. And my business partner, I ran another company, was furious with me because I hijacked the meeting. But I left being very jealous. And I left jealous for 2 reasons. Is I knew they would find someone, and I thought he would be a white guy. And I thought he would probably have his MBA. And I'm not a white guy, obviously, and I don't have my MBA. And I was like, they would never go looking for someone like me. But I think I'm the perfect person because I understand this company, and I love it, and I have affinity for it and affection for it, and I could take it to places. I really believed I could take it someplace. And so, my advice to any woman is just be you, work hard, listen, strive for more, put yourself in positions where you're uncomfortable and being pushed. Take the feedback. Criticism hurts, it stinks, it doesn't feel good to get, but it will make you better. And I think those are the things that help women. My last thing on it is I met with someone today who was like, I'm really looking to fill this type of role, and I would really like it to be a woman. And it ticked me off because I was like, why not just find the best person for the role? And that probably is a woman. So why not just leave it at that? So I don't know if that answers your question,
it does.
but that's how I would go for it.
I'm the same. I never really thought of this whole thing, even with this lately, the International Women's Day. I don't know. I never really thought about it. I would have assumed going into the candy industry it was going to be more girls than women, because I don't know. A lot of the guys I know are not really like sweet tooth. They're more salty. It's just stereotype, but it seems to be thing. But then I went to the giant candy shows, and it's all men in suits running these mega companies, the Mars and the Hershey's and Jelly Bellies. And so that was like a surprise to me. But they were all, old school, sort of generational, more of a family industry. So they were very welcoming. And I kind of came in and sort of like, hey, I'm opening this candy store. I don't know any of you, but it's going to be amazing. And they were very they saw how passionate I was about candy, that even though we're not like these giant like supermarkets that they supply to, they're like, cool, innovative concept will help our business. We believe in that. We understand you're the consumer and you're doing something new that's going to attract a new customer. They were very supportive. Just watching my dad, his right hand to his company is a woman, and my mom is his muse and the one he goes to for a lot of, ideas. And, I think just watching how respectful, he's been, and, a lot of the men I know I never really was surrounded by that kind of person who is not seeing it being equal.
And how involved was Ricky? I mean, because we don't
Yes.
hear. You guys
Yes.
are very private.
Yeah.
Tell me about her influence with Ralph.
She's private and she's quiet, but she is definitely, the dining table, as we're sitting here, is kind of like where it's a lot like, I didn't really like those jeans. They fit this way and they weren't that flattering. Why are you cutting them this way? Or, you had a lot of great stuff in the men's store that doesn't fit us. Like, that's my big complaint. I see great colored plaid shirts on these guys
I'm
that I
always
want.
trying to buy from the men's department.
Yeah, it's very frustrating. So I'll say, all my friends are, looking at these designers, which, I don't really, but I want to be like, why are they shopping there? And what do they have that my dad should have? So we're all kind of throwing things, which is annoying when people start talking about candy. I don't want to hear about it because I'm like, I'm tired. But so I now understand how he gets. But I think my mom she is very natural. And my dad's never been, he watches, she's just very natural style, natural beauty, and I think he responds to that. And she sort of has a good eye for, finding vintage clothing and putting it together in a cool way. And so he takes from different inspirations.
It's funny. I always want to buy from the women department.
Really?
Really?
Anyways. All right. I feel like women have
the next
more
episode.
choices. Yeah, for
They
episode.
do, yeah.
Women have way more choices, but the colors for men are so much better. Like,
Yeah.
I have a polo shirt I have been trying to recreate. I found this vintage polo shirt.
Yeah.
That was so it was almost threadbare in this gorgeous pink. It was a men's shirt.
Ooh, yeah.
And I have been obsessed with this shirt for 10 years. Like, I hand wash it.
That's so funny.
And I'm like, why don't they make thin polo shirts for women?
They did.
They did. This one is like a
Distressed
T-shirt. Like, it's so thin,
well-
but it's also, I think when strong women take a menswear style and they put a feminine twist on it, like, that's magic.
Yeah, it's very
Your dad
cool.
was so good at that.
So, Dylan, I want to talk. We have a lot of young entrepreneurs that
Mm-hmm.
are listeners that are so smart and so hungry. I've never seen a pool of greater talent that are hungry to do great things early.
Mm-hmm.
Kids come out of MBA school and they're talking about what's my equity piece. I'm like, what's my equity piece? we used to spend 20 years before we
Yeah.
talk about equity.
Amazing.
But let's talk a little bit about the challenges of scaling a business. And I always say I'm very heavily involved in the fitness industry, and one of the things I tell some of the young folks in our office is, you think we're in the fitness and wellness business, but we're in the real estate business.
Right.
And the truth of the matter is, when you go and you grow and you scale, you can never outrun a bad lease. That's number one. And number two, even the nuances of neighborhoods in different towns. Real estate is the most local game of
Yes.
any business. And you can be in the right town, in the right street, in the right corner. But if you're in the wrong side of the street, is bad real estate. Tell me about some of the challenges you've had in trying to scale Dylan's Candy.
Right. Well, location. The first flagship on 60th and 3rd, I found that space. I had my eye on it. It was Sam Goody, and I was like, oh, Goody, that's a sign. I was looking for signs. I talked to an astrologist about the numbers on the building. So I look at it like that, but I also knew that was a great corner with a lot of walking traffic. But New York has changed. A lot of the movie theaters that I was building my business around had moved. Certain department stores aren't as happening right now. A lot of traffic was moving Soho all of a sudden, and then it was Bleecker Street, and now it's Hudson Yards. So, a lot of stores around us and a lot of retailers are seeing stores close. So that it's impacted sort of us in New York, especially in that, we were thriving off of restaurants being near us and having, neighbors that are good, partners. But we're still sort of in a great location in our flagship store in New York, and it's New York City, and it's a tourist destination. Miami, we're on Lincoln Road. Lincoln Road has gone up and down and all around, and like some of the great neighbors, Williams-Sonoma, Pottery Barn, all moved. So that's been hard. We start to lose families, and then all of a sudden, some club goes down the street, and I start to get a little bit of a riffraff crowd, which makes a little, so. It's interesting being around 17 years and seeing some of our locations, which we took, and then you're sort of like, ugh. But I would say there's certain tried and true areas like the East Hampton location. I know it's going to be not winter. It's a summer business. We have to close it for winter, but it's always, there's a local, very responsible customer. So I know that's a good store. But the bigger cities with all these new locations, it is challenging. But I think that the lesson I learned is, don't let anyone sign a lease that's too long. Like, you got to get a clause that gets you out. If you can sublease, that's important. There are some spaces we didn't do that, and we're sort of stuck. Or you don't really want to put them on the market that you have to get out because it looks bad. But so many stores move or try to find the new wave. And I just think knowing when you're taking that space, who's really going to stay. Like Union Square, we were in, and Starbucks was right next to us. And we had, Lululemon right next to us. It was like, great. And then we got there and they moved. So, you gotta really ask your broker, like, what's their lease?
What's the neighborhood?
And what's going on. And what for us, we rely on tourists and we rely on families. So even as a city, like when Miami got hit with like Zika, or a storm, or in New York, we opened right after September 11th. Like, you can't control any of those things, but I think places that are tried and true are always going to be tried and true.
Do you think that requires a lot of fortitude? Like, I think about your business, 2001 is a long time. So talk about just the strength of you see Miami go up and down and up and down, and how do you coach your team to manage that? How do you weather that?
Well, it's challenging when our managers are like bummed because traffic is down and we can't control it, or traffic's up and we don't know, is it spring break, what is it? So we forecast and look at what happened last year and try to take in all those considerations. But we just opened Hudson Yards and it's rocking, and we know there's a lot of publicity around it. But I am realistic to sort of set our numbers lower so that I feel like sometimes if you set your bar too high, then you always, everyone feels they failed when it's not good. But I think it's challenging. But I feel like I'm opening in Hawaii soon, and I have walked by that location or seen it, Skyped, or I know it's right near a beach. Like, there's people always going to be walking. It's a great high-end traffic area on Kalakaua Avenue. So there's certain things hopefully, where I am in New York, Bloomingdale's is a good, neighbor to us. It's like a New York iconic store, and there's some major businesses right around us. Like, I think they're going to stay there a while, and it will keep us there. So
Dylan, when you were a teenager, your father wanted to name a fragrance after you.
Yes.
And you said, no, Dad, I'm going to save it for when I'm going to have my own store. I'm going to save it, right?
Yes.
And now you have over 2 million people going through just the New York store alone. What gives you the confidence as a teenager to say, it's going to be my day?
Well, so he named it Ralph, which is funny, for a women's fragrance for a young girl, which is funny. I mean, they gave me the name, and it's kind of cool. It has a little, like, Dylan Thomas, Bob Dylan, and they liked it, and I liked it. And I was like, I'm going to save this for something. When I was a little girl, they had the Dylan blouse, which was named after me. It's this white ruffled blouse that I had. And, there's like weird in the lines, you'll see like the Andrew shirt and the David this. Like, so we have little things that we know are code after us. But I just felt very strong that, that I wanted to do something entrepreneur. I just knew that I would, and I just wanted to save the name. And I didn't really think I was being that rebellious, but I was kind of like, no. I do like
I'll
the
keep that,
packaging of the line. Like, it would have been cool. I kind of actually have the Ralph packages on my shelf as inspiration for candy packages. But my parents are very supportive. Like, I think they knew how much I loved candy. Like, it actually was interesting when I was pitching the concept of the candy store in 2000. I don't even know what year, 1999. There was no candy store like it. So my dad sort of understood like soda fountains, or my mom, they grew up in that era. And then the business people I was meeting didn't eat candy, and they're like, okay, well, there's candy in every supermarket, every drugstore, everywhere. Why would you open a candy store? But it was my parents who understood, one, how much I love candy, but that it was really about creating Disneyland and a real experience. And as we were saying before, having opened those stores and now restaurants, my dad understand, like, this is not just a candy store. This is a lifestyle brand and an experience.
I want to piggyback off that a little bit, because when Jennifer and myself and the kids go to Dylan's Candy, I'm one of those that I'm more of a salt guy, not so much sugar.
I know your favorite candies in our celebrity Binny Bin.
That's right.
Yes.
That's right. But Jennifer can go there every day of her life and look the way she does. Like, yeah, she's very lucky. But what I found myself doing is I would be mesmerized. I would walk up and down the lanes, and just the experience of what you've created there is so magical that even for me, that I'm not like the greatest candy, I just love going to your store. I always end up buying candy or ice cream, but I'm always mesmerized. And when I leave, I just feel like I'm better and happier.
Oh, good.
And another interesting thing is why I always go back. And the listeners, if you haven't been to Dylan's Candy, do me a favor, go to Dylan's Candy. It is an awesome experience. And if you don't like candy, go and get the ice cream. It's fantastic. but it's the people that you create this amazing culture with. The people there, we don't even get asked for photos or pictures. I mean, they're so respectful. And I think you've created that. And I congratulate you for that. It's been great.
Thank you so much. I'm really flattered.
I think you've created a brand. Like, when you hear about companies now, like Glossier, everything is built towards Instagram, right? It should look good on Instagram. And you did that before Instagram. Do you know? And I think that's the way you visualize candy as art. I think that's what makes it iconic. I spend so much time thinking about what makes a brand iconic, what makes it last, what makes it stand for something. And the world you create and the experience therein, I think, is such a big piece of that. But I also think you were so ahead in thinking about a world that was going to be in a square photo, which is really the world we live in now.
No, thank you. I really appreciate coming from both you guys, because you're both business people, athletes, health conscious, but you understand. To me, it's about happiness. I find candy colorful, and it's just fun to look at, and it just makes me happy. I don't even have to eat it. I just think it's so, the ambiance that I wanted to create, especially in New York, especially, not knowing September 11th would happen, but, even more so, is a place that was an escape. When you go to Disneyland, it's an escape. And, with the candy songs from different genres playing, it's like you hear Candy Girl, it's like, it's fun. It takes you back. We have nostalgia candy. So there's a lot of subconscious feelings going on. The smells, the sights, the sounds. So that's part of the experience, remembering what you ate as a kid, but also just seeing all these colorful things and the the fixturing.
Yeah, it's very tactile.
Yeah.
It's cool.
So it's really for people, average customers will spend 45 minutes if they haven't come, just looking around and having fun. And that's really my goal, as I said, is to ignite that inner child and creative spirit. So I'm happy that you said you walk out of there, not just with the ice cream, but feeling good. That's the goal.
Who is describe your customer? Like
Yeah.
describe, because that's actually been interesting. I think people
Yeah.
who don't know you would say, "Oh, it's for kids," but you don't think about it that way at all.
No, in fact, the logo when I was designing, I was like, it's got to be on black or white. I want it very hip, and I wanted the targets to be modern, and the stripe on the gusset of the bag is sort of like a ribbon belt in fashion meets a unicorn pop. So I really want an iconic shopping bag to make it more of a gift for really a woman in her 30s was what I was going for. I was sort of all my friends ate candy, but all the women who were older than me were like the candy nuts. The most sophisticated like luncheons. I would see like these 60-year-olds bringing Swedish fish to the table, and they were like Twizzlers, and so I was like, everybody loves candy. So I was trying to mostly target. That was my core, like 30-year-old. And then obviously I knew kids love candy, so that was a given. But I knew I wanted to be a hip, cool brand. I think with the liquor license having the candy bar, so Dylan's Candy Bar. But and then I knew, I like my brothers, they have like more of the chocolatey, salty thing going on. But it's really something for everyone. I have the ice cream and the candy cocktails for other people. So we really hit everybody who of all ages. I've had, people who are 80 having a birthday party in this store, and we've had Sweet 16s because we have a party room. So it's just a celebrational place.
It's so cool.
So Erika, you mentioned that, in the process of you becoming CEO at Barstool, you went up against hundreds of male. You thought that the winner of the CEO spot was going to be white male with an MBA. And, my question for you, Dylan, is we have a lot of entrepreneurs who do not have the benefit of going to a great school.
Right.
Some of them can't afford it. They're smart enough, but they can't afford it. And they also don't have the benefit of what the three of us now have is some incredible connections.
Right.
So what advice would you give them to to jump off the page and make a mark for themselves?
Well, I would listen to your podcast because I'm serious. I think
Thank
the
you.
people you're interviewing come from so many different backgrounds who are inspirational. I mean, I was watching them and I was like, wow, I learned something from all of them, and just watching what you've done, and now I'm meeting you. I think really listening, studying. I mean, for me, I went to Learning Annex, these random classes, that were just, how to start a restaurant, how to do this. They were like, $10 and you walk in, and I learned a lot. From, now there's online classes, YouTube, you can really get a free education, just studying people like, I really, I keep mentioning Walt Disney, but like just watching the movies and taking in, what is it that inspires me, or walking around, Pinterest boards, taking notes, taking in inspirations, keeping all the contacts of everyone. You never know where your friends go or what they become, and how everyone can help everyone. I mean, I'm not a numbers person, and I was lucky to have people around me who that they did. I was more the arts, and so just meeting people who can help you is so important. Reading books, I learned a lot about. I watched, I read Pour Your Heart Into It. Starbucks. That was one of my most inspiring books, and so interesting. Like, businesses that are similar in terms of food, and so I think that's really important. And finding if there are ways to raise money. There's all different ways, and I just think, but really having support of good friends around you to make you. It's really about believing in yourself. Bottom line, no matter where you come from, what your background is, and having people who really believe in your vision.
I also think, like, you don't say it, Dylan, but you have so much passion. I think we could just probably talk about candy flavors for 45 minutes, and she would keep going. Like, and that's also, for me with Barstool, I think I had more passion for Barstool Sports than most of the other candidates. And I think I see kids wanting jobs all the time, and you just bleed passion.
Oh, yeah.
And that's it's infective. Like, it's exhilarating. If you look at, Hank, who produces this podcast, also didn't have a formal background. He wasn't an editor. He didn't grow up on podcasts. But you know what? He just had passion
Yes.
and a skill and worked on it when nobody was watching. I think that's the other thing in
Yeah.
your story is, like, it's remarkable to me that you were in your early 20s, if you had just graduated, making a brand for women who were 10, 15 years older than you. Like, that's rare to have that type of vision, but it's also, you were playing around not because anyone was watching or it
Yeah.
was cool or it helped you with your friends. You just were really passionate. And I think Hank has that, you have that, Alex, you certainly have that in spades. I think that's also a huge part of it.
I also just think like filling a niche, like for me, like I wanted all the candies I couldn't find in my store, and I wanted the pop art, and I wanted to create a place. It was like an extension of something I just felt like was art. So it's like, I think if you fill a niche or you're trying to develop something that's not existent, it becomes very exciting.
So your husband, Paul,
Yeah.
great guy. We've gone to dinners over the years. Every time I sit with you guys, I feel like I'm learning something from Paul. He's in the hedge fund business.
Yes.
He's a math guy. You mentioned you're not. Do you find, and I know that now he sits on the board.
Yes,
of Dylan's
he's on
Candy.
the candy board. He takes it very
Do you
seriously.
find you're like kind of leaning on him much the way Ralph leaned on Ricky?
Oh yeah, I mean, it's really funny. I can't even. Paul will not sleep at night if I tell him an issue, and it could be like, I really wanted these chocolate chip cookies in my store, and I can't understand why I can't get them. They have black and white and oatmeal raisin, and he's like, I don't know. He's like, and he starts doing the math. Well, like, what was the shelf life? Is it because, like, what was it? Maybe you should have like done get rid of some of them and figure out if you really was a profit on it. Like, he just gets crazy with these things. But it's such an outlet for him because I guess the hedge fund world is not that exciting, and he's in distressed debt, and it's, I don't know. So he's
Not
very
chocolate chip cookies.
yeah, but he's really into like e-commerce growth. He's really into that. We have a lot of wholesale businesses in hotels and like Neiman Marcus. So he wants to see these things grow and grow smart. He's looking at our corporate overhead and just the stores we have and if they're set up for growth. I mean, he's it helps that he's on the other side on the distressed debt because he kind of knows why places don't work. But no, he gets really passionate. But like, I mean, I get like frustrated about not having the right colors of jelly beans, and I can be really upset about that. And I take it very seriously. And he's kind of like, that's not really important. I'm like, oh yes, it is. Oh yes, it is, because people want their red cherry jelly bean and they don't have it today. So but it's all part of the same thing. But it's so helpful to be able to have a different perspective. But it can cause a little bit of lack of relaxation if you're at dinner and it's like, can we not talk about work right now? So
Is that advice for Alex?
I mean, I'm very excited for you. So congratulations
Thank you.
again. I want to know, when did you know, by the way?
When did I know? Boy, oh boy, this has just turned into another episode.
Okay,
You
now
can shut the cameras down now. You know what? We actually went early on a walk on the beach in the Bahamas, and it was really, really strange because Jennifer said something to me that I couldn't believe, and she said, I haven't. She told me two things I couldn't believe, and this was probably, Dylan, within the first month of us dating. And I leaned in. I said, what? She said, first of all, I haven't taken a vacation in 7 years. Which was hard to believe, but as much as I see her work, it's actually very believable. So I said, okay, wow, that's a lot. And the second thing she said, I hadn't taken a walk on a beach in over 20 years.
Wow.
So I said, that's incredible. So we have to change both of those. And when we were walking... and I remember telling you, Dylan, early on when we met, and that I was really excited to meet her, and we shared some nice notes. I said, when we're in our 70s, we're going to be walking on a beach like this. And we kind of laughed, and it was cute. It was early, something you kind of say. So, but I kind of knew around that day that maybe I'll come back here. I didn't know when, and do I'll propose at the same beach.
Oh, that's great.
How nice.
And I did that a little bit over 2 years. So
Oh my gosh.
the most incredible thing that I did, I believe, was I kept it a secret. Like, I'm telling you, like, nobody knew. Like, Jeff Lee's with me 24/7. He's my CEO. And he didn't know. My mom didn't know. I only called, and I'm going to stop talking because this is your episode.
No,
So I
yeah.
only called David, her father.
Okay, good.
And I called Lupe, her mother. I had to call
Smart,
Lupe, or she
yeah.
would have, like, strangled me.
Yeah.
But they both said yes, and they gave me permission, and I went ahead and did it. And it was fantastic.
It's beautiful.
So
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yay.
Thank
Good.
you.
It's really nice. Yeah, I was very happy for you.
Thank
so.
you. I have one more, and we can finish. I mean, I think our young listeners out there, all our listeners, really, they want to hear something. I would love to hear your biggest high and one of your lows, and maybe start with the lows and finish with your high. Maybe a lesson that our listeners can learn from.
Well, I would say lows are just, I mean, even recently we're constantly changing, our structure, and we've had to let go of some people who, I'm very close to, been with me for 15 years, and I think that's hard. You become friendly, you work together, you travel together, so it's hard because you want everyone to grow with you and grow together, and it becomes a family. And sometimes people are strong in business, but they don't get along with everyone, or they get along with everyone, but they're not strong, and it's always hard, as sort of the head of the group to be like, you're not going to come on this journey with me, and so that's probably the low. The high is just we're about to open Hawaii. We had just opened Hudson Yards. We have a licensed store in Kuwait, and so it's just very exciting to open new stores. But also just like when people I admire, like people like you, or you like the store and get such joy out of it. That's such a high to me, because I feel like, to me, it's like a creation, and then I feel like people are enjoying it. So I'm like, it's like a gift back to me. So it just makes me really happy.
I love that.
Yeah.
Well, I first of all, I want to say thank you so much. I'm a friend of yours and a fan of yours. And our listeners, if you haven't been to Dylan's, take a ride. It's going to be an awesome experience, and you'll enjoy it. I promise you that. Dylan, first of all, congrats on all your success. 2001 seems like yesterday.
Yeah.
And what you've done to Dylan, growing it. Now you're going to Hawaii. It's been exceptional, and you continue to be a great role model, not only to my two daughters, like you as well, Erika. You get to be a great role model for so many people, not just young women, but all the people across the country. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.